Someone might see, she whispers. They are standing just beyond the trimmed hedges, where the garden loosens into something less ornamental and more alive. Moonlight filters through the branches above them, pale and silver, turning the gravel path into a ribbon of quiet brightness. The air smells of damp earth and crushed leaves, the faint sweetness of night-blooming flowers drifting on the breeze. The Duke does not step back. Instead, he angles his body closer, just enough to shield her from the open path without fully hiding her. One arm lifts, resting against the low stone wall behind her, not trapping, but bracketing her presence so completely that the world beyond them feels suddenly irrelevant. Yes, he replies calmly. They might. Her breath catches, not because of the words but because of how easily he agrees. That's not reassuring, she says. No, he agrees. It isn't meant to be. She presses her palm flat against the cool stone behind her, grounding herself. The garden had seemed harmless a moment ago. Open, public, safe. Now it feels charged. You should move, she says. I won't. The certainty in his voice is quiet, unforced. It settles into the space between them like a decision already made. She lifts her chin to look at him, heart pounding. You don't get to decide that. I'm not, he says. You are. She swallows. Then I decide we shouldn't be this close. He considers her, gaze steady in intent. And yet, he says, you haven't moved. The truth of it lands with uncomfortable clarity. She tries to step sideways, to slip past him back toward the safer, brighter part of the grounds. His hand lifts immediately. Not grabbing, not pulling. Just settling lightly around her wrist to still the motion. The contact sends a sharp spark through her. Don't, she breathes. He releases her wrist at once, palm lifting in a quiet concession. I won't hold you, he says. But I won't pretend you didn't try to leave only because someone might watch. Her pulse races. That's not fair. No, he agrees. It's precise. She exhales sharply and turns away from him, staring out into the darker stretch of the garden where trees crowd closer together. Shadows pool there, deep and tempting. You enjoy cornering people, she says. I don't corner, he replies. I observe. She laughs softly without humor. That's worse. Yes. Silence stretches between them, filled by the soft rustle of leaves and the distant murmur of voices from the estate. Somewhere far off, a door closes. Footsteps cross gravel then fade. They are not alone. They are simply unnoticed. You could step back, she says. I could. But you won't. No. Why? He shifts slightly, just enough that the front of his coat brushes her arm. The contact is brief, almost accidental, but it sends warmth spreading up her skin. Because stepping back would suggest I regret standing here, he says. And I don't. Her breath stutters. That sounds like a declaration. No, he replies. It's a refusal to lie. She turns back toward him despite herself. You're very careful with words, she says. Yes. And very careless with proximity. He tilts his head slightly. I find proximity clarifies things words complicate. She studies his face in the moonlight, the sharp lines softened by shadow, the composure unbroken. He does not leer, does not rush, does not touch her again. He simply remains. That makes this dangerous, she murmurs. Yes. And you don't mind. I mind very much, he replies quietly. That's why I'm still. The admission hits harder than bravado would have. She takes a breath, steadying herself. People already assume things. Yes. And you're letting them. I won't correct what I'm willing to stand beside. Her throat tightens. You say that as if this is already something. It is, he replies. You just haven't named it. She looks away again, jaw tight. The garden feels too open, too exposed. Yet somehow, standing here with him feels more private than any closed room she can remember. This isn't wise, she says. No. And it's not discreet. No. And it could change how I'm seen. Yes. She turns back to him, frustration and something warmer tangling together in her chest. Then why are you still here? She asks. He meets her gaze evenly. Because you didn't ask me to leave, he says. You warned me someone might see. The difference matters more than she wants it to. She steps forward before she can stop herself. Just one step. The space between them disappears. She can feel the warmth of him now, the quiet solidity of his presence. His hand lifts again, not touching her, but bracing against the stone beside her shoulder, enclosing her without caging her. Her heart pounds loudly enough she's certain he must hear it. "You're very close," she whispers. "Yes. And you're not moving." "No." Her fingers curl into the fabric of her skirt. "This is exactly the sort of thing people talk about," she says. "Yes. And you're not worried." "I'm aware," he corrects. The distinction steadies her. She searches his face for arrogance. Finds none. Only intention. "You don't chase," she says slowly. "No. And you don't retreat." "No." That leaves very little room for anyone else. He considers that. Only if they want to stand here too. She laughs softly, breathless. "You're impossible." "Yes." A branch shifts somewhere nearby. The faint sound of voices carries closer, then veers away. Her gaze flicks toward the path instinctively. He notices. "You can step back," he says quietly. "I won't follow." She looks at him sharply. "And you'd let me?" "Yes." The answer is immediate. Unconditional. That changes everything. She doesn't move. The choice settles between them like a held breath. "You don't make this easy," she murmurs. "No," he agrees. "But I make it honest." She lifts her hand slowly, hesitating only a moment before resting it against his chest. The contact is light, testing, but it sends a visible stillness through him. He does not move away, does not deepen the contact. He simply allows it. "I said someone might see," she whispers. "Yes." "And you stayed." "Yes." Her fingers press a little more firmly, feeling the steady beat beneath the fabric. "And I didn't leave." "No." Silence stretches again, heavier now. "You're not even pretending this is accidental," she says. "No." She exhales shakily. "Then stop looking at me like that," she whispers. He leans closer, just enough that his breath brushes her temple, his voice low and even. "I won't," he says. "Because you're not asking me to." Her eyes close briefly. When she opens them, she meets his gaze without flinching. "Then don't," she says. Something shifts, subtle, irrevocable. His hand lowers from the stone to her waist, resting there with deliberate restraint. Not pulling, not claiming, holding. Her breath catches. "You said you wouldn't touch me," she murmurs. "I said I wouldn't without reason," he replies. "And now," he says quietly, "you've stopped warning me about who might see." Her heart races. The garden seems to hold its breath. She leans in, not fully, not yet, but enough that the promise is unmistakable. "This is where things stop being deniable," she says. "Yes," he agrees. "And you're still not stepping back." "No." She smiles faintly, a mixture of nerves and resolve. "Good," she says. He lowers his forehead to hers, close enough that their breaths mingle, the world narrowing to the space they share beneath the trees. In the open air, under the moonlight, with nothing to hide them but choice. And somewhere in the garden, unseen and uncorrected, they stay exactly where they are. The garden does not punish them for it. No sudden voices cut through the air. No lantern light swings closer. The night remains as it is, open, quiet, complicit. Leaves stir overhead, brushing softly against one another, as if even the trees have decided not to interrupt. Her breath is the first thing that changes. It slows. Not because the tension fades, but because she stops fighting it. "You're still thinking about who might see," he says quietly, his voice low enough that it barely disturbs the space between them. "Yes," she admits. "And you're still here." "Yes." He does not smile. He does not tease. He simply acknowledges the truth and lets it stand. She exhales, a long breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. "I've spent most of my life avoiding moments like this," she says softly. "Places where there's no easy explanation." "I know." She glances at him. "You keep saying that." "Because it's true," he replies. "You leave before things become visible, before people can misunderstand. And you don't," she says. "No. That's dangerous." "Yes. And you choose it anyway." "I choose clarity." he says. Even when it costs. The honesty settles into her slowly, like warmth sinking through stone. Her hand is still against his chest. She feels the steady rhythm beneath her palm, unchanged, unhurried. It steadies her in return. You could pull me closer, she says quietly. I could. But you won't. No. She looks up at him, searching his face for hesitation. Why? Because if I do, he says, it will be because you asked me without words. Her heart beats harder. She swallows, then slides her hand, not forward, not upward, but inward, resting more fully against him, closing the last pretense of distance. The message is unmistakable. His breath shifts. Just slightly. That is all the warning she gets before his hand tightens at her waist. Not pulling her in, not pinning her, but acknowledging the choice she has just made. His other hand lowers from the stone wall, settling at her back, warm and certain. The contact is immediate and profound. The garden feels smaller now. You're very calm, she murmurs, even as her body betrays her, leaning instinctively into his hold. Yes, he replies. Because you're not running. I could still stop this. Yes. And you'd let me. Yes. She tilts her head, studying him in the moonlight. You don't fight for things, she says. I don't fight uncertainty, he corrects. I stand where I mean to remain. That makes something in her chest tighten, sharp, sudden, and emotional enough to surprise her. She lifts her other hand, fingers brushing lightly along his lapel, the touch tentative but deliberate. The movement stills him completely. The restraint is not gone. It is focused. This isn't discreet, she whispers. No. And tomorrow they'll talk. Yes. And your name will be part of it. Yes. She laughs softly, breathless. You really don't frighten easily. No, he says. But I respect consequences. And this one. He meets her gaze fully now. I'm willing to carry it. The words land deep. Before she can second-guess herself, she leans in. Not all the way. Just enough that her forehead rests against his. The proximity intimate without haste. Their breaths mingle, warm against cool night air. The kiss, when it happens, is not sudden. It is inevitable. His mouth meets hers slowly, deliberately, as if confirming something already decided rather than discovering something new. There is no urgency, no desperation, only depth, intention, and the quiet weight of choosing not to pull away. Her fingers curl into his coat. His hold firms at her waist. The world beyond the garden recedes completely. When they part, it is only by inches. She rests her forehead against his again. Eyes closed, pulse racing. This is where it becomes real, she whispers. Yes. And you won't pretend otherwise. No. She opens her eyes and looks at him fully. Good. Footsteps sound somewhere on the path. Distant, unhurried. She tenses reflexively, then stops herself. He notices. You don't need to hide, he says softly. I know. You don't need to explain. I know. You only need to decide whether you're finished standing here. She considers the path, the open air, the very real possibility of being seen. Then she looks back at him. No, she says. I'm not. Something shifts in his expression then. Not triumph, not possession. Recognition. He leans in again, brushing a second kiss against her mouth, brief, restrained, but unmistakably intimate. This doesn't end tonight, she says. No, he agrees. It begins. They walk back toward the estate together, not touching at first. Then halfway along the path, she slips her hand into his. The gesture is simple, irreversible. Inside, the gathering continues, but it changes the moment they enter. Conversations soften. Eyes lift, then glance away. No one asks questions. No one needs to. Later, when the night thins and the guests begin to depart, they stand together on the terrace overlooking the darkened grounds. You could have waited, she says quietly. Yes. But you didn't. No. She turns to him. Why now? He considers her carefully. Because you stopped pretending the openness frightened you more than distance, he replies. She smiles faintly. You see too much. Yes. And you don't flinch. No. She steps closer, resting her head lightly against his shoulder. The gesture feels natural, earned.